Hey guys, welcome back. I am doing a quick 2-video series, like a mini series on digital homeschool planning. So last week I shared a video on using Trello for homeschool planning. I used Trello for about 2 years. Sometimes I used a paper planner like along with it, but I kept most of my planning within Trello. And then I switched this year to using Notion. I've been using Notion now for I don't know, 5 or 6 months. I'll have to look back and see. But it's been a really good change. I really enjoy it. Sorry, my camera's a little bit shaky. I'm just doing a quick introduction so you can see my face. And then I'm gonna turn a screenshot on where you can see my computer and I'll show you, how Notion works. So let's get into it. If you are new here, hi, my name is Cassie. I'm a homeschooling mom to 2 kiddos. They are currently ages 8 and 11 years old. We're wrapping up our 5th year of homeschooling now. Just to warn you, Notion can be a little bit overwhelming. If you thought Trello looked a little confusing, Notion's gonna look very confusing. I was completely overwhelmed by it and I almost didn't touch it, but I decided to go ahead and make an account and just kind of jump in and try it and just see how it works as I'm playing with it. And it wound up being a really good thing. I think I'm going to continue using it for a while, especially if we wind up moving somewhere that needs to see like detailed records of what we used for school. This would be something that would be really good for people who need a portfolio or who need to check all those boxes for their state. We currently live in Texas, so I don't really need to report to anybody, but we may be moving at some point. Anyway, so I'm gonna turn the camera off and you're gonna see a screenshot now of my computer and I'll show you how it all works.
Well, I don't know why she did that, but you guys cannot make noise. Maybe don't poke people in the head. Right, so here is just one of my pages in Notion. I have Notion downloaded onto my Mac, so I don't have to actually go to the website, in my browser. And it looks pretty much the same as the website though. It just makes it easier to work offline if I need to, and then it'll just, update or sync whenever I connect to the internet. Sorry, my chickens are right outside the window. There is a lot you can do with Notion. It's so open-ended that it's kind of hard to know where to start. When you have a page, like a new page, it looks like this. So it's really hard to look at this and imagine what it's going to be when you're done. So I decided to start with a book list because I already had a book list started in Google Drive as like an Excel spreadsheet. Now, Notion lets you import files, so what I did is I actually imported a CSV file with my book list, so I had like something to start with. So the way I did that is when I started my page, I created a database with this view. You have different views, ways you can see your database, and I just chose a table because I wanted to see it similar to like a spreadsheet. Okay, so this is how it would start. I imported my file, but for you guys, I'm just going to start blank with a new database, and I'm just going to title it Books for Video. Okay, so you kind of start off with a couple of properties here for each item in your database, and you can add, I don't know, as many as you want, I guess, and there are all different types of properties you can add for your database. So like name, you would just have your book title, and then I had another property here that was, what was it, like text. Here it is, edit property. So you can change what kind of property this is. You can do text, you can do a number, you can do like a drop-down menu to select something. You can do a multi-select, which is kind of like having tags in there. That's what this is right here. You can have a date, you can tag people, like if you are on a team using Notion with other people, files, a checkbox, URL. So there's so many things you can do, but I'm just going to keep it simple and create a text property for author, and I'm just going to move that over. And then tags, I'm going to edit this and add my options for my tags. So for me, it helps to have libraries in my tags because I go to many different libraries to get all the books that I need because I live rural. I would have, one library here and then maybe another one and then another one, and then yeah, there's another one. So here are like 4 different libraries I may use. I may also note whether it can be accessed through Libby as an ebook or as an audiobook. And then I think I also have tags for things like graphic novels, and you get the idea. So these are going to be all of my options that I can choose in this multi-select property. So say I have a book and it's by, I don't know, Dickens. And now I can select my tags. He doesn't write graphic novels, but maybe I can get it as an ebook, and it's available at these 2 libraries, okay? I hope you get the idea. Like I said, there are lots of different tags you can use. I think I had one that was just text for like little notes and things. I also have checkboxes here to show whether we have finished reading it. So like if we already read this book as a read aloud, I can check this off, and then later if I'm looking for a book that I want to read, I can filter it down by, not having this checked. So I hope that gives you an idea of like how you can start a database, but let's go ahead and go back to my book list that's already set up. I have hundreds of books in here. I don't even know how many there are, but I just put every single book that I would need for a lesson or for a supplement or for a read aloud or independent reader. Anything that I could possibly need in my lessons is listed in this book list database. Here's an example. The Kids Guide to Native American History. I have a drop-down menu here, and this is just a single select menu. This is used for a history lesson, so it would not be considered a supplement. It's not science, yada yada yada. Here I notated what history unit number or week number we were using that book for. And then I started adding books for next year's lessons, and that's why this is here. And then so tags, I do own this book, so I marked it here, and I didn't bother putting any libraries that it's available at. I have the author name, the source. I don't think I'll actually use this that much. I started putting these in, but I haven't found that I actually use that to filter down at all. So I don't know, it was just an idea. Notes, I have notes for things like, I could do the picture book on a YouTube read aloud. This was a Brave Rider Arrow, so just like random little notes. I also notated how much this might cost me to buy it used somewhere if I wanted to. And then like I said, I marked whether we read this already or not. That's kind of the short version. Probably my favorite thing about Notion is how powerful the filtering and the sorting is. So you can have this giant database with, oh, there it is, 671 entries. Okay, 671 books or DVDs or whatever. But I don't have to look at all of them at once. Say I have some time and I want to do a read aloud, but I don't have one scheduled in my curriculum. I can come up here, click filter. I can come up here and I can filter down to just read aloud books. And then I can come over here, say I want to pick one that I own because we're starting, in 2 days on Monday, and I want to make sure that I don't need to get it at a library. Oops, let's change this to contains own and not contains. And then let's say I don't want it connected to history or curriculum, so I'll say does not contain, can I select all of them? Here we go, is empty. Okay, so this would not be considered part of any of our history weeks. I'm going to make this one empty too. So let's add another filter. History week next year, that property should be empty. And then remember my little checklist over here? These are read alouds we have already read. If I wanted to, I can add another filter. Read aloud done is unchecked. So these are all the books that are not already read aloud. So here we go. I have a whole list here. Some of these are mentioned in curriculum, so I might want to filter that even further. But, this list isn't terribly long. I can go through and say, I think let's read Frindle. That sounds like fun. We'll read Frindle, and it should take us, 3 or 4 weeks, so we have time for that. And I own it already. And so that's just one way you can use the filtering feature. The other thing you can do is sort. So you can have as many different sorting options as you want. You can nest sorting options underneath other sorting options. Like, the possibilities are endless. So I just sorted it by history unit number and by the type of book, because that's normally how I go through this list. Another way that I often filter down this list is if I need to request books at a library that are coming up in our history week. So for example, if next week we're doing week number 19, I might go to history unit number, and I want it to contain week 19, and let's say I want to request the following week's books as well, just so I have them ready at the library. So these are all the books that contain those tags for those weeks. I also want to make sure that I don't already own them. So I'm going to say does not contain own. And now those are all gone from this list. And let's say I only need my history stuff. That's pretty much most of the books anyway, so I'm not going to bother filtering out these other things. But if I had a lot of books to go along with science units or things like that, you could filter to only your history books here. So there is how you can use the filters. I hope that gives you a really good idea of how like a basic database would look and function. Now I'm going to show you another database that I use a lot, or every week really, is my lesson plans. So this doesn't look like much right now because this is a special filtered view that I have set up here. And I'll show you that in just a minute. But here is a list of all the lesson items that I have entered on this database. This has some different properties for each item. So like, let me show you all of them. If I were to open this, you can see all of the properties that are even available, even if they're not showing in this view. So I have a single select option for that lesson's status. It's either something we're doing this week, something that's coming up next, which I don't always use, or something that is complete. I also have a single drop-down option for the subject. So this is a literature read aloud. This is what we're reading in the morning. It could be a history lesson, science lesson, a math lesson. I have some other subjects here for like lessons that are coming up next year, but I don't need to see right up here. This is a really helpful property too. This is tags for things that I need to do. So if there are books I need to request for a lesson, I'll have this tag showing. If there are materials I need to purchase, say for science, or any prep work the day before, all those tags will show up here. So I can easily see, like, if I had already purchased my materials, this would be gone and I wouldn't have to worry about that for this lesson. I started filtering down by what day of the week we were doing these things. I found that it wasn't very helpful though. It didn't really need this much detail, so I'll probably get rid of this tag or this property. But I do have a property for which student this is, and this helps with filtering things too. I'll show you what this is for later. It doesn't really affect this view. You don't really see this here. This was just something I did for fun that you'll see in a minute. So one thing that I don't really do in the book list database that I do in this database is put details within each item. So each item in your database is going to basically create like a sub page in that database. So I have this filtered. Let me take one of these off. Okay, so there I had it filtered so I don't see my completed lessons. But let me go ahead and pull up one just to show you an example. So here, in our read alouds, I will often include copywork passages and discussion questions and vocabulary that go along with that book. And usually this is pulled from Build Your Library. She provides all this stuff for me, so I just kind of put it here so it's like easy to find. You can add all kinds of things within a page, and the way you do that is you start typing, okay, and this would be just like a text item here. Or you can change it into all kinds of things. You can have headings, you can have a to-do list, you can create another page within this page, so it's like a little sub page. And then, here we go, turn it into, say, a checklist. You could change it into a toggle, which is what these are. So you can have items underneath that, so that can be toggled away. You can change these into quotes or callouts that have little symbols. So there's a lot that you can do within pages. The really nice thing about having all these as separate items is you can move things around really easily. So, I don't know, let's say I wanted to move this up and have it in between these two chapters. I put it here, okay? Or let's say this is something I really wanted to have underneath this toggle. I can pick it up and move it. Now it is nested within there, and you can do so much. You can change the color, you can have different backgrounds, you can change this little icon into something else. So like the options are endless for customizing this. It's something you're probably just going to have to play with and see like how you want to put this to use. One thing you can do that I completely forgot to mention is embed websites or PDF files or images. So here's an example. Oh, it's scrolling the website. Here's an example of a couple of websites I embedded as a resource for me to look back on. You can also just create a simple bookmark link instead of having the whole website embedded on your page. But it's made it really easy to keep things organized, especially when I have outside resources to supplement like a history lesson or something. Okay, let's go back to our lesson plans database. So the way I use this database is, like I said, I list out every lesson or every book we're going to do as a read aloud, every unit number, things like that. And I have all my details for each lesson listed on the page, including links to any books that I'm going to need, which actually link back to that book list database. Let me show you an example of how that looks. So I'll just pick one here. I don't want to show too much because, like I said, it comes from Build Your Library. So I have the sources for the things in this lesson came from Build Your Library 5 and River of Voices. These are all of the books that I know I'm going to need for that lesson that aren't really supplements. So let's take this one for example. I do own this one, but let's say I don't own it and I want to see which library has it. I just click on it and it links directly to the page within that book list database that has the unit numbers, the libraries where it would be in my tags. All right, now I have to go back. So that's how you can link to other databases and other pages to make it easier to find the information you need, if that makes sense. So I have all my lessons set up, I have them sorted by subject, I have them tagged in a status as complete or something we're doing this week, and this part right here helps me when I'm doing my weekly planning. Okay, this is really important. So what I have is I added a view. Okay, this is just like the basic database view, and you can have all different views, which I'll show you in a minute. Here is that special separate view that I have up here. So this is the exact same type of view as this one, only it has filters that I don't change. I leave this filter on so I can easily move back and forth between looking at all my lessons and looking at lessons for just this week. So this filter is only going to show me lessons that have this status. Once we finish a lesson, I do note the date that we did it. So we haven't finished Redwall, for example, but when we do, I can change this date and I actually keep that start date, and then I toggle here to create an end date for when we finished reading the book. And once we're finished with a lesson or a book, I can change this to complete. I'm not going to do that because then I have to go find it. And once I do, it will go away from this view, right? Here are some other views that I have. This view is more like a Kanban board, kind of like Trello looks. So if you like the look of Trello, this might be an option that you can use. You can still link between things and add all your details, but it's just another way of viewing things, and it makes it easy to move things around. I actually did use a Kanban board for a while. It was a separate page, and I had a different heading for those days of the week. Do you remember this right here? So I actually had a Monday column and a Tuesday column, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then I just moved the lessons over if we didn't get to it or we needed to continue working on it. But I found it was too fiddly and I didn't really like doing that. I really preferred just having this here that I can look at when I need details, especially on these history lessons. There are a lot of things in here that I need to look at to see what we're doing next. But most of these other ones I don't actually look at that much unless I'm gathering materials, or, you know, like the math lessons, there's nothing in here because I just don't need to mess with that. Another view that I really like and I think would be really helpful for people who need to do any sort of reporting or record keeping is this calendar view. So these dates here, this property allows me to assign a date for when we start and finish something, or if it's just a one-day thing like a lab, it'll just have one day here. And those show up on my calendar. This calendar actually has everything. I don't think I have it filtered. Oh no, I do. Oh, I was trying to see how long a math lesson took. So let me take this filter off. All right, so let's take those off. Now it's gonna show everything that I have here, all my lessons, on the calendar. So say I only wanted to see what we had finished. So I might say status is complete. These are now all the things that have been marked complete. Say I need to show everything that one of my children did, I would add a filter for just that child. So here's everything that my 11-year-old did. This is one view that I did just for fun. This really serves no purpose at all, except that I like seeing the little dots filled up. It's just kind of fun to see. So what I did is I put an image in here as my cover for the page, which I don't know if you noticed, but normally there's nothing up here. You can add an icon or remove it, or you can add a cover, which is a picture kind of like this one. So I did that here just so it can look pretty on the front. And then I have this little progress chart. I cannot take credit for this formula. My mind just like went blank when I was trying to figure these out, and I copied it over from somebody else's template. So all it does is it has this ridiculous formula that winds up with this cute little progress chart that fills in automatically based on your numbers you put in. So if you want to see it over here, for Paragraph Town, we have completed 12 out of the 20 lessons, and this calculates the percentage automatically, which then fills in this progress chart. So you can just see it like filled in. Again, it serves no purpose, it's just for fun. I might not even continue doing it. If I can find it, I'm going to show you guys the alternative to this. When I started using Notion, I had my lessons in here, and then I created a separate page that kind of filtered those lessons. Let me see if I still have it. Okay, this is what I wound up with. Let me toggle these open for you. So I created this separate page here called This Week, and this page is not a database, okay? When you create a new page, you can say whether it's just going to be an empty page that you add things to, or if you're creating a database like my lessons and my book list. So if I were just creating an empty database, I would do it like this. And then you just start adding things wherever you want it. It's really open-ended, but I'll show you what it can look like. Here's that page that I made just like I showed you. There's a cover image, there's an icon, and then I added these toggle headings like this. So say I'm typing in here, I'm going to turn it into a toggle heading. I think I did 3, and this would say like day of week. And then I can go within my toggle here. This is a divider. There's a shortcut here. I don't know if you noticed. You can do a slash and then start typing what kind of block you want to put in. So I did a divider, and then I did a to-do list here. Okay, there's something I have to do, something else I have to do. And then I added another divider, and then so on and so forth. So that's how I created these. And then what you can do is you can move these blocks around, and you can actually make them go horizontally or, you know, side to side. And it just divides the page up into sections. And you can move these, you can make them bigger or smaller. Anyway, so that's how I created this look. And then what I did is I would have on my phone, it only showed me this much. so I didn't actually see everything laid out like this. It just showed me like one section. So I would toggle open Monday, and as we did our stuff, I would just check off down the list. That worked fine, except the problem I had was that at the end of the week, I would have to go in here and like uncheck every single box, and it was too fiddly, and I didn't like doing that. I decided I prefer just writing things down on paper. I did not need much space in a planner, just having a checklist like this. This is what I found I was looking at more on the computer or on my phone, was having all these details for the lessons. Once I realized that I didn't really like using this checklist format very much, and I only use this, that's when I decided to go back into my lesson plans and make this special view here. You might be wondering how I got this piece of the database in here, and all you do is you add, a database. So instead of adding a new database, you would find the view you want for an existing database. I just added a table view for the existing database, which was lesson plans. That's where my data is coming from, okay? And that's how I created that view like this one. Down here is something that I was kind of playing with. It was a checklist that I could actually print out for my daughter to use during her week. Once I found that I wasn't really using the things up here, I decided to make her checklist into a separate page so I didn't have to see all that stuff. I just created a little icon for her and the title of the page, and then this is a heading with a background color, and then underneath each heading I have a checklist for her. These little call outs here are just reminders for her, things we're doing that week, and reminders to turn things in. Every week I would go in here and I would change these things here that she would have to do, and then what you can do is you can export this. And you can export it as a PDF file, which is how I printed it out for her. You can also export as an HTML file or as a CSV file, like if you needed to enter your lessons into a spreadsheet to show to somebody. One of the reasons I initially started playing with Notion was because we are considering a move to another state that does require a portfolio and details on what we've learned. So I imagined using these databases to create files that I could print out and share with somebody. Trello does not make it easy to print out information and share it with somebody, or even to, I think, share it online without giving somebody access to your board. It's great for teamwork and people working together on a board, but not so much for just sharing, the basic information. What I imagined I would do is create a new view and have it filtered. And I would maybe filter it down to just the information that would be relevant. So they would need to know the lessons, they don't need to know that, they don't need that. Okay, so this is maybe what they would need to look at. They would need to know the lesson, they would need to know the dates we did that lesson. I guess they wouldn't need this one. Hide that one. So let's start filtering this down. Let's say I want to filter it by status. Now you can filter one of these properties even if it's not showing. If you noticed, I hid the status property from this view, but I can still filter down by whether something was marked as complete or not. So here are all the lessons that were complete. Let's say I need to show just what my son did, my 8-year-old. So I can filter by just having him in there, and then I might also need to show everything we did together. So this is just a long list of everything that he has completed since I started Notion, and I guess it depends on how you would want to show this to somebody. Maybe you want to show it on a calendar like this view here and filter that down. Maybe you just want to export this information as a CSV file. However you want to do it, this makes it really easy to show exactly everything that you did without digging through piles of papers or flipping back through planners and making notes of things you did. You already marked it as complete, you already put the date in here. I imagine it would be really easy to share this with somebody. So that's kind of the gist of it. This is mostly how I use Notion. There's one more page that I can show you. I don't use it a whole lot. I imagined I would use it a lot more frequently, but it's like a journaling reflection database. So in here, I thought I might come in and at the end of the week do some reflection on how things went. I did use it a lot when I was planning for next year. I kind of reviewed how our year went, and I guess I can show you that. So I just kind of talked about like areas that we improved, areas that we needed some work, curriculum we used, and what we thought about it for both of them and for our group subjects. And I did something kind of similar getting ready for the next year. Talked about what we wanted to learn about, what curriculum we planned to use, whether or not I purchased what I needed, again, for both kids and for our group subjects. This is very similar to how I normally do our planning for the year, only I think I did it last year on a Google Drive, but it looked very similar to this. The one thing I think I missed the most from Trello was the automation features, where you could have things automatically moved around or checked off. I don't really miss the automation features at this point, just because I've figured out how to make this work best for me. Once I discovered that making it work like Trello wasn't really using Notion to its full potential. So I'll probably do some more videos on Notion as I continue playing with it and use it throughout next year. But yeah, that's pretty much how I'm using it. I am using a paper planner, like I said, just to jot down checklists for each day to make sure we're moving through our lessons, whereas all my details for lessons are here. My daughter gets that checklist that I showed you to print out, and she uses that to keep track of her work for the week. And my son still gets a handwritten checklist because that's what works best for him. Next year is going to look a little bit different, but I'm still planning to use Notion. I'm still going to use the same sort of format or view because I really like having it all quickly accessible. If you have any questions, please comment down below. I'd be happy to answer them to the best of my ability. I have been using this for 5 or 6 months, I think now, 4 or 5 months, and I really like it. I feel like I've got a handle on, what I need out of Notion, but there's still so much that you can do with this that I'm sure I haven't figured out yet.
I hope that wasn't too overwhelming. I hope you enjoyed that and it was helpful. Definitely check out the video I did on Trello, which I will share here for you, and I'll see you next time. Bye!